Well, one of the first things you have to remember is that the assessment happens in 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, over a 1 week or 2 week period, but it happens very, very, very quickly. But you are expected as an organization to maintain that security posture throughout the life of the contract. So day one after the assessment's done and you got your certificate, every day for the next 365 days, you are expected to maintain the same level of security posture. That those 110 controls remain implemented and are effective. So first off, the people have to know what the 110 controls are, what the assessment objectives are, and what's expected of them to demonstrate that those controls are in place, are implemented and effective. And that's in addition to the technology that they know. So if they're running the firewall, if they're running the vulnerability assessment scanner, if they're running the IDS or IPS, if they've implemented the DMZ zones, they know those technologies, but they have to make sure those technologies are properly configured to address the assessment objectives. And that's where the training comes into place. We make sure you understand what the assessment objective is and how it can be met. And then you leverage your knowledge of the technology you're responsible for, or the process, the HR process you're responsible for. You leverage that knowledge, apply it to the assessment objective so that you can demonstrate on any day. DIBCAC is an organization that does the audits on behalf of the government. They can show up whenever they want. Monday morning, knock, 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 it's DIBCAC. We're here to check your security control practices. And you are obliged to let them in the door and be audited. So the training helps you ensure that you're meeting those objectives every day, each and every day. What happens if you don't meet the objectives and you get a spot audit, and that spot audit demonstrates that you weren't meeting the security control practices? You could lose the contract. If it's a data breach, you have to report that data breach. And even if you self-report, you can still be audited. And if during the audit the government determines that you're not meeting the controls, now you're no longer compliant. Now there are potential financial fines, legal ramifications. You could have the contract removed from you. You could be put on the blacklist. The cost of fixing the problem could be quite significant. And the cost of the loss of data, not only does it expose potentially, sensitive information, but if that sensitive information, as I've said a few times, gets into the hands of the enemy, that puts our men and women in the military at a disadvantage. So we have a responsibility to protect that information. And unfortunately, in the past, some companies have not taken it seriously. So this is the government's way, the Department of Defense, Department of War's way of making sure that you are addressing this. And you have to address it each and every day. One of the interesting things a lot of companies don't know is that every time you submit an invoice to the department, you're reattesting to the fact that you have maintained your security posture, the one that you were certified under, every time you submit an invoice. So the training is crucial because it's always less expensive to fix a problem up front than it is to fix it after the fact, right? If you put the leash on the dog, at least you have control of the dog. If you don't put the leash on the dog and the dog runs away from you, it's a lot harder to get control of the dog.